Radio 102.3.
This is Live and Local on 102.3 The Talk Monster.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. 7 minutes past 2 o'clock on your Thursday afternoon. This is Talk Radio 102.3 FM. Live and Local with Brian Joyce. That is my name, and I'm hanging out with you until 4 p.m. If you'd like to give me a call, if you want to be a part of today's show, 267-1023. That's the talk line. You can also reach me toll-free, 888-779-8255. Greg, the great Southern California punk band Face to Face, taking us into the 2 p.m. hour. Now, they're playing in Nashville this weekend, and I personally would like to be in that audience on Saturday night, so I'm going to do my best to get up to Nashville to see my guys face to face. You want me to buy you a ticket, or are you all set?
I'm all set. I've already got plans for the holiday weekend.
Do you really? Or are you just saying that?
Well, I've got to get this pool thing going.
Right. It is that time of year. 267-1023, toll-free, 888-779-8255. Want to remind all my listeners that for the third year in a row, Talk Radio 102.3 FM, we are teaming up with EPB, the Times Free Press, the United Way, and Ace Hardware for the EPB Fan Fund. Go to epb.net/fan fund. You can donate $20. You can buy a fan for a family in need, help them to stay cool this summer. It's a great cause. Doesn't cost much money. It's a great partnership that we have with EPB. So for more information on the EPB Fan Fund, go to epb.net/fan fund.
In fact, Ace Hardware is a stop I get to make this afternoon because the big long hose that goes back to the deck split.
Well, that's no good.
Yeah, I got to get a new one.
Going to want to get that fixed. All right, moving ahead here, the Marketplace Fairness Act. Now, we've talked about this many times on the show before here, folks. Always a popular item, so I wanted to revisit it. Now, the Marketplace Fairness Act, better known as the online sales tax, this bill that passed through the Senate earlier this month, breezed through the Senate, really, a 69-27 vote. Now, many Republicans in Tennessee do support the bill, including Lamar Alexander, Bob Corker, Bill Haslam, but, of course, many Republicans in the House, like Marsha Blackburn and others, do not support this bill. Now, just to recap here, what this bill would do is it would give all the 50 states the power, the ability to collect sales tax on online purchases. Now, right now, consumers are supposed to pay that tax, but many of them don't because, of course, at the point of purchase, they're not forced to. And I don't care how patriotic you are, Greg, as an American, most people out there probably won't pay a tax unless somebody makes them, right?
That's how I look at it.
That's pretty much how I handle my taxes, and I think a lot of Americans are like me. Now, the latest Vanderbilt University poll is out, and it shows that a majority of Tennesseans oppose the idea of an online sales tax. According to this Vandy University poll, 55% of Tennesseans oppose the idea of an online sales tax, 38% support it. Joining me on the phone right now is Glenn Jacobs, and he is the co-founder of the Tennessee Liberty Alliance. And, Glenn, I think a lot of my listeners might know you better by your alter ego. You, of course, were the professional wrestler by the name of Kane. Now,
yes, hey guys, how's it going today?
How's it going, Glenn? Now, I just started. Is this one of these? I want to make sure I'm calling you by your right name. Now, I know you don't go by Kane anymore. You're Glenn Jacobs, but I don't know. Is it? You know how Mark Wahlberg doesn't like being referred to as his previous alter ego. I just want to make sure I'm not stepping on any toes or anything.
No, it doesn't matter. I've been called a lot of really bad names, so by a lot of people. So Glenn will be fine for this interview. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm sure what a lot of my listeners don't know is that in addition to being an actor and a professional wrestler, and in addition to taking on guys like The Undertaker in steel cage matches, you're a pretty bright guy too, and you've studied up a lot on economic policy, and you're the co-founder of the Tennessee Liberty Alliance. Now, you've taken a lot of concern about this online sales tax. Now, give us your thoughts on the Marketplace Fairness Act. I had mentioned that, a lot of Republicans like Lamar Alexander, Bill Haslam, they say it's basically just a fair way of enforcing a tax that's already owed to the state, but other people like yourself argue that maybe you could consider it a new tax, and so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, it is a new tax because, as you were mentioning in the intro, right now you're supposed to pay a use tax, which is a complementary tax to a sales tax. And what this does is it is going to create a sales tax, essentially, because it puts the burden and obligation of paying the tax at point of purchase. The bottom line, when it all comes down to it, is that people are going to be paying $10 more for every $100 they spend on the internet. They're going to be paying $10 more in taxes. So, you know, these guys can say, well, it's not a new tax. Well, explain that to the consumer who sees their bills go up by 10% on their internet purchases. And then there's also all sorts of economic distortions that are quite problematic, as well as constitutional problems. Mm-hmm. So it's a really, really bad idea, I think.
I want to get into those constitutional problems. Now, you wrote an op-ed in the Tennessean last week, and you talked about this Supreme Court decision back in 1992. Now, can you explain to my listeners what that decision was all about and how it affects this bill?
Sure. The Supreme Court decision in 1992 was Quill versus North Dakota. The Quill Corporation versus North Dakota. And what it said was that states cannot force retailers outside of their boundaries to collect sales tax on their behalf. However, the court basically said, but we're not really married to this, so legislation can overturn this particular decision. Mm-hmm. From a constitutional perspective, the country was founded on the idea of federalism, in which the states would have a great deal of sovereignty, which is, enshrined in the 10th Amendment.
Right.
That, of course, is no longer the case. The federal government has assumed all sorts of powers that it shouldn't have constitutionally. But nevertheless, the idea that retailers in Tennessee are going to be beholden to tax collectors in California or New York mm-hmm. is completely anathema to our system. I mean, if the state has any sovereignty, if you live in Tennessee, you should be abiding by the laws of Tennessee, not the laws of New York or the laws of California. And it's not only that, but also we have almost 10,000 unique tax jurisdictions across the U.S. So even if you do everything correctly, as far as if you're a Tennessee retailer, and you file everything, do everything correctly, that still doesn't mean that these people from 10,000 different tax jurisdictions can't come back at you or at least ask you questions. It's just going to be a nightmare for people that have online businesses.
Well, one of the things fundamentally, Glenn, that I don't exactly understand about the Marketplace Fairness Act, and I've asked this question before, I've talked to people, and you can't quite get a clear answer, is do you even need a piece of federal legislation? Now, Bill Haslam says he likes this bill. What's stopping the state of Tennessee from collecting this tax right now if they chose to? Why do we even necessarily need a bill from Washington, D.C. telling us to do that? We could already do it, couldn't we?
Well, no. I mean, the Supreme Court said they can't. And also
each individual state?
In the 1992 decision.
Okay.
Said that they would need federal legislation to be able to overrule that decision.
Okay.
And also, really, the Commerce Clause of the United States Constitution, it was written to make trade regular. In other words, to ensure that things weren't taxed, that goods weren't taxed when they crossed borders. So really, this should be a federal issue because it deals with interstate commerce. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, I think they're making the wrong decision. Now, and as far as what you said, it's true up to a point. Like if Amazon or anyone has a physical location in Tennessee, they have to collect sales tax on the goods that they sell to Tennessee residents, of course. This only applies if I'm a Tennessean and I buy something from out of state, in which case I don't have to pay sales tax on that.
Now, in your op-ed in the Tennessean, you do admit, Glenn, you acknowledge that some brick-and-mortar businesses are technically at an unfair advantage to their online competitors, but you also say it's your opinion that the Marketplace Fairness Act won't exactly fix the problem. Now, why is that?
Well, from an economic point of view, what it's going to do is it's going to take money out of the consumer's pocket. So they're going to have less money to spend anywhere. And if you still decide to make your purchase online, you're going to have to pay more. That's going to leave less money to spend at the brick-and-mortar places. What I anticipate is going to happen, and if you look at the people that are backing this bill, you can sort of see where the weight's being thrown. Mm-hmm. And what's probably going to happen is the big retailers, including Amazon, are going to benefit. The reason Amazon's behind it, of course, is because they have a physical location pretty much in every state, so they have to collect sales tax, I think, in most cases. And even if they don't, they already have an army of accountants and tax lawyers, so they're going to be able to comply much easier with this than a smaller business. A smaller online business, I saw this statistic from a fellow that runs a small online business, and he figured that the first year this would cost him $40,000 in compliance costs and $4,000 a year after that.
Yeah.
Well, for that guy, that's a lot of money. So it is going to benefit certainly some brick and mortar businesses, but it's not going to benefit all of them. And it's also, people may not even shift their purchasing habits, because the internet's just a wonderful place as far as being able to go for convenience. You can shop from your bedroom in your pajamas if you want. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of choice, and there, frankly, are things on the internet that you can't get at brick and mortar stores. That's part of the reason that I do my online shopping, is just for things that specifically I can't get at a brick and mortar store. So it's not going to help all the brick and mortar stores. It may help some of the bigger ones, but I think, in my opinion, I think it's going to hurt the mom and pop brick and mortar retailers. I'm
talking here with Glenn Jacobs. He's the co-founder of the Tennessee Liberty Alliance. We're talking here about the online sales tax. Now, Glenn, you've challenged Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey to a debate over this. Now, tell us about the debate. Have you heard back from Ron Ramsey?
I haven't heard back from Lieutenant Governor Ramsey.
Is he afraid that you're challenging?
It's been on the news quite a bit, so I'm sure he knows about it, but I just haven't heard from him. I would love to debate him. I'm looking forward to that, because I think this is an important issue. And
quite honestly, Glenn, I think if Kane from the WWE was challenging me to a debate, I don't know if I'd get back to you either.
Well, I'm on the record as saying it will be very nice, of course, and very cordial.
Right.
And one thing, guys, I travel all over the country, so I deal with a lot of these different tax jurisdictions as far as at a state level, and it's very difficult. I mean, my accountant loves me because he gets paid by the hour, and unlike someone that, just lives and does business in Tennessee and just has, basically a federal income tax return with a little bit of Tennessee stuff, I have to fill out an income tax return virtually from every state that I work in. Mm-hmm. And can you, just imagine now if you're a small business and all of a sudden that burden is placed on you. So I actually understand what these small businesses are going to go through. Yeah. So I think I'm in a very good position to, bring forward some of the concerns about this bill to Lieutenant Governor Ramsey.
Now, you've stated before, last question I would have for you here, Glenn, is I read your op-ed in the Tennessean, and of course you're stating that, this would be, for all intents and purposes, just another tax that a lot of people have to pay, obviously at a time when a lot of Americans are struggling just to make ends meet. Now, I certainly agree with you to some degree on that, but I just want to play devil's advocate, and I've done this before. Now, let's say I went to Congress and I said, I know Tennessee has a state sales tax, but I don't feel like paying it every time I owe it because it's a real burden to me. And that's kind of the way I look at this. Do you suppose they'd be okay with that? Because basically, in some ways, that's what's happening here. You have people who owe the state a tax legally. They're simply just not paying it.
Well, first of all, I don't think most people know that they owe the tax. So that may be... that may be highlighted by our conversation here, and then what's happened with the discussion about the Marketplace Fairness Act. Yeah. Again, I mean, that's what's happening isn't so much that; it's the fact that the burden is being placed onto the retailer, which is going to cause them a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. And also for me is the fact that according to the Beacon Center, which studies government waste in Tennessee. They released their pork reports last year. The state of Tennessee wasted $468 million last year. So instead of another tax, or instead of making a mechanism by which they can enforce the tax, which currently is virtually unenforceable, why don't we address that first? I mean, I think that most people don't have a problem with paying taxes so long as they feel that they're getting something in return, so long as they feel that money isn't being wasted.
I'd agree with you on that.
In our current environment, the money is being wasted both at a federal and at a state level. And if things were done to address that waste and that graft, we wouldn't have to be talking about things like this. I do appreciate the fact that we don't have an income tax in Tennessee and our property taxes are in line. They're lower than a lot of states. Unfortunately, our sales tax is very high, and I think that hurts retailers, especially those retailers on the border areas of the state.
Yeah.
So lower taxes are always a good thing, and they're always a good thing for everybody except the politicians.
Let me take a quick phone call here from, we'll go to Dave. Dave, you're on Talk Radio.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Dave.
You know, I've been hearing for years how if you make people pay taxes or pay this tax or that tax, they'll have less money to spend and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm going to tell you something. I've been hearing that for 20 years, and every time I go out to Hamilton Place Mall, it's still crowded with all these so-called broke people who can't afford to pay sales tax. You know, when is a person going to actually show a study or some kind of scientific proof that making people pay what they owe is really killing us? Because last time I checked, people have, I mean, you know, just the numbers that came out a few weeks ago, consumer retail shopping is up. It's not down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for all this tax talk, it makes me wonder if the people who are anti-tax are actually looking at the numbers. Retail sales are at a record high right now compared to what they were, but everybody keeps claiming that we can't buy anything because of taxes.
Well, Dave, I appreciate the call. Now, Glenn, you've looked at the numbers, but I think maybe you'd disagree with Dave.
Yeah, it would. And it's not only that, it's the fact that it's not only retail sales, it's the fact that people don't have that money then to invest in their own businesses, to save for college, to do all that sort of different things. So if you're looking simply at retail sales, you're just looking at one aspect of it. I mean, the gentleman has a good point, of course, but that's just one aspect of the overall economy. I mean, what about everything else, you know, as far as investment, as far as savings? And I can tell you a lot of people dip into their savings now to pay for different things because they're out of a job, because the economy stinks. So the more money you can leave in people's pockets, to leave at their discretion, because I am of the opinion that no matter what, you can spend your money or save your money better than a politician can, which is what taxes is. It's giving money to politicians to spend your money.
Let me take one more call here from Scott. Scott, go ahead. You're on Talk Radio.
Hey, this may be a new business idea for Amazon, or maybe they're already thinking this, in which case it's another example of the rich getting richer. But since Amazon's already in all 50 states and already has the infrastructure to collect and distribute the sales tax, and they have, I don't know what percentage of internet retailers are Amazon Marketplace retailers, but Amazon can then turn around and go to the retailers and say, hey, for $25 a month, we'll process, or $50 a month, whatever the number is, we'll process your local sales tax for you.
Right.
And handle it, and then force more online retailers to become Amazon increase their market share of the online retailers, and increase their profit by here's another place we can charge money.
Scott, I appreciate the call. Now, Glenn, not to put words in your mouth, but I think maybe you would argue still, eventually, that cost is going to get kicked down to the consumer.
Yeah, of course it is. And actually, but the gentleman brings up a great point. The people that are going to benefit from this, in reality, of course, are the accountants in the cottage industry that's going to grow up for the compliance of this thing, right? And the tax lawyers, they're the people that are really eyeing this, going, man, we're going to have this enormous new bureaucracy that's going to have to be formed in order to deal with the compliance cost of this tax. So, he's probably got a great idea. He may want to keep that under the wraps, though, before he I wouldn't go blurt it on the radio. I've got to go to Amazon and talk to them first. Glenn
Jacobs, I appreciate your time. Now, last question I have for you. Who was the toughest guy you ever wrestled against? Was it The Undertaker? Was it The Big Show? Who was it?
It was probably Undertaker. I've wrestled against quite a few tough guys, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, but Undertaker's probably the toughest.
All right. Well, good luck with that, Glenn. I appreciate your phone call. Thanks.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
All right, you too. There you have it, folks. That's Glenn Jacobs from the Tennessee Liberty Alliance, and they do have a website. I don't have it on me right now, but let me check it during the break, and I'll come back and I'll give you that link. 267-1023, toll-free, 888-779-8255. I'll be right back. Talk Radio 102.3.
Live and local on 102.3.
To hear from you. Facebook us at Talk Radio 102.3 or click the link on the homepage at WGOW.com.